Hi, everyone. Welcome to our show. I am not doing this show alone. I have a funny vision that I'm seeing right now, and I want my co-host to finish what he's chewing before I put him on camera. Yeah. So today, this is gonna be a dope episode, if I do say so myself, because not only are we going to be going over the Splenic and Ego manifested authorities, we have a guest with a Splenic authority as well, and she is like a human design celebrity in my books. So I'm low-key fangirling right now that she's even on this show. So this is going to be a jolly good time. So I think Danny is ready to.
Yeah, I've been ready.
Oh, okay. I saw you licking your lips, so I was like, okay, I want to give him some time.
We're dealing with royalty in the making. I thought you could hear me from a whole 30 seconds ago, but yeah, royalty in the making. That's what I call Tressa.
Oh, so juicy. Well, enough rambling from us. Let's bring our guest on.
You didn't know such things. You didn't know such things, did you, Tressa?
No, are you kidding me? Me? No, but thank you. It's been so much fun for me to connect with Moana and just talk a little bit more with her, and it's been really fun. So
do the thing. Yep, absolutely.
Tressa, do you want to tell everyone what your design is before you become our guest lecturer for today's class?
I am a 6'2" splenic manifester, single definition, left angle cross of spirit. And Danny is my human design teacher. I have learned everything about human design from this man. He is one of my best friends in the world. And it's always, I talk to Danny multiple times a week still. And,
I'm like, can I get in on this?
Yes.
Like wiggle in?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Me and Danny are in the process of building some masterminds, master classes ourselves. And so when that stuff starts coming about, we'll definitely let you know, have you on as a guest. And
Rook. That was Rook?
Yeah. He's in and out.
Hi, honey. That's our thing. We're hoping to get a masterclass mastermind thing off the ground. Because we're that good. I mean, at this point in time, Tressa and I can literally pull anything out of any environment and then create the meaning out of it. It's just, we're that good at this point. It's perfect. It's perfect. Yeah. A perfect show on the road. And you could even mistake us for Jehovah's by accident too. So we got it all covered or whatever. We can knock on doors even. It's perfect.
I was just making a joke to someone. I'm like, I want to be a vacuum salesperson. Like, the idea of pitching is like me, like, will you buy my vacuum? Will you buy my vacuum? I'm like, I don't want to do that. But anywho, so let's show off our wonderful slides, if I do say so myself.
What we're doing today, do you mind if I line this up? What we're doing today is, so we've been talking about the human design body graph. Everyone's got a type, everyone's got ways, things we read out. Now we're looking at all these inner authorities, and we're doing the spleen tonight. So what we're going to, 10% of you in the audience are going to truly understand and hear and be like, that might be me, because what we're going to do is bring it to life. And who better to do this with than this lovely crew here, where we just care so deeply to do so. So let's do it.
All right, Tressa, you can do the slide and disagree and agree. Throwing it right in.
Oh yeah, no, these are simplified. So Tressa, let's two it out. We're gonna 16-2 this thing right now.
But not too much. There's slides explaining everything. It's the intro slide.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Can you read it?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Are we talking about what the spleen is? Because I don't want to talk about your slides before the slides come out. It's a surprise.
Okay. Maybe I'll just do the intro slide and then go to the real slide.
Yeah, narrate the slide, Moana, so Tressa can see the flow of things.
So like we talked about last episode, right? So your authority comes from some center, usually, right? And this particular splenic authority comes from the spleen. That's why we have splenic center. And a question that can help activate this authority type when they are in a section to make a decision is, does this feel right? and their timing is immediate. Like,
yeah. And so when I think about our inner authority, I call it our inner GPS. It's our guidance system. This really tells us what action, because our authority tells us how to take action, and then our strategy tells us how to take action, and then our inner authority tells us what action is correct to take. Now, when I think about inner authority, everything about human design comes back to the physical body. And so this is a center on the body graph, but all of those centers on the body graph actually represent real places inside of the body. And the spleen is deeply connected to our immune system and our lymphatic system. It's the center that keeps us safe. It keeps us safe from viruses and bacteria. It keeps us healthy and alive. And so, so yes to all of that stuff. And I don't want to say anything more.
It's about the immediacy of it too. And folks should start to recognize the spleen isn't what Tressa and I are always joking about. Sometimes it's the cat on the hot tin roof thing, because it's turn left. I mean, turn right. I mean, I like it. I don't like it now, whatever.
In the now, in the moment. Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Well, and almost bringing it back into the physical body, that your immune system is always turned on. In a moment, you could have access to a virus or a bug or a bacteria, and your spleen is going to defend itself. Right. Everything is right here, right now. Right. So the immediacy of it.
Exactly. And then there's also the bit that, other than the immune system part, is like a physical safety thing. It's like, don't go down that alleyway. Some of my spidey senses.
Right.
Yes.
The spleen 100%. Is the home of that sixth sense. The spleen is the power, the home, the awareness, the piercing ability into our sixth sense. That's how I would call the spleen.
Yeah.
So
juicy.
Right. So like Tressa and Danny said, right, it's in the now, but the fun part is there's no like warning voice or pre-warning voice that says I'm coming now. It just shows up. It shows up, hey, do that thing, or hey, don't do that thing, and it just leaves. So if you weren't paying attention in the moment, that voice is not coming.
Right. Well, and the spleen really likes quiet. I think that's something that I had to learn in my own experiment. When the mind is very active, it's hard to tell the difference. Is this my spleen or is this my mind? And so very often, if I'm confused, I will have to take a few minutes and find a little bit of quiet as a manifestor, find some peace so that I can feel into, and the spleen speaks in different ways. So, and I don't know if you're going to talk about that in a different slide.
It is.
Okay.
Oh, dude, we're about to get this flow. That's crazy. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I will move on to the next slide. I think we covered everything. You guys just did it in a very flowy manner, but
Moana, are you telling me we hit these bullet points just naturally?
Just take a quick read. As far as I can tell, everything was just covered. I mean, there's one thing we didn't cover, which is so when how I mentioned that it gives you that sense that like, oh, like maybe don't do this. Sometimes that can lead into, if there's different vibrations for all the authorities and all the centers, right? So you have a high one and you have a low one, and the low one for the splenic vibration can lead to anxiety. So that's the only thing we didn't talk about. So the high one is like healthy, but yes, tell me your experience.
Yeah. So the splenic center is a fear center. There's a deep binary between fear and trust, between safety and health. So most people with a splenic authority, whether that's a manifestor or a projector, are wrapped up in the not self theme of chronic fear and control. Right? Everybody talks about fear with an open spleen, but people forget that when you have a defined spleen, you can be consistently wrapped up in fear. Now, open spleens will amplify fear. So they're feeling it more than the defined spleen. But the defined spleen, so what'll happen for a splenic being is that they learn at a very young age that they can't trust their splenic intuitions because it's not common, it's not normal. Right. Most people don't have it. Most people don't operate that way. And so they will then let the mind just talk them out of their splenic awareness, splenic intuition. Now, here's the thing about the mind. The mind thinks that if it can control something, you will be safe. And so
That's the
you
old
will
way. It's the old way. We spoke a lot about this. Yeah.
Yes, it's the seven-centered way. And so you will meet most splenic beings who are deeply conditioned, and they try to plan, prepare, predict, control, force, because the spleen, because they're so obsessed with the idea of safety.
That is fascinating. Hearing
And the
from
fear on, the fear on the other
lived it.
side of that safety, and along with it is all of its open spleen compadres, because I believe the defined spleen is about 44% of the population, something like that. And and so then the rest of us with it open have that amplifying thing, ending up holding on to things, sometimes trying to be twice as spontaneous. A splenic being knows when to be spontaneous because they are it when it happens. And suddenly, you know, us openly we can want that even more, and then start holding on to things that we just didn't want to. So it all comes together in a soup. But next slide.
Right. So this particular slide, Tressa, again, you could agree or add to it or disagree, is basically how to correctly make decisions. If
Can
you
read the first?
authority.
Can you read the first couple ones, Moana, with your Moana
Sure.
voice?
Yeah. So when a decision is, brought up, you tune into your body. So like Tressa said, maybe go in a place that's quiet. No, maybe not in a busy street with lots of people. Not ideal.
Where your initial instinct is your truth. The initial instinct is the tooth. And so does it feel right or wrong? And then a clear answer means it's time to act. A clear answer has to be seen. No clear answer means it's no for now. A decision may come up again later. It will come up again later, mostly. Feeling unsure, but it still feels right to you. Does it feel right to you? You'll know in a moment, and basically ultimately ask yourself, does this feel right? Does this feel okay? Does this feel good for you?
The unsureness, even if it feels right, that is just a possibility that you could be just feeling fear. So, your mind is, again, you're going into your not self, like your body's saying, yeah, this is right. Your mind's like, but.
Right. But this doesn't make sense, but I don't understand it. But why would I do that? But this is stupid. No, you guys have to understand that. And we have to learn it. We have to conceptually grasp something before we can turn it into practical application. But these steps 1 through 7 happen in 2 seconds. When you have a splenic authority, it's a now this is the truth that I have learned in my personal human design experiment. Half of the time, my body moves itself. Half of the time, when a decision arises, tune into your body. My body is already 15 steps moving into the thing that it is already doing before my mind even catches in to what I'm a manifestor. I'm pure action, right? I will be all the way to the door, and then I'll realize, like, wait a second, what am I doing? Okay, this is, yes, body, we may do this right now. Okay, right? And so
that's incredible. I can't relate at all as emotional wave.
Yeah. When you learn to let yourself do that, for a very long time as a conditioned manifester, I would hold my body back.
Oh.
Right? I would feel the instinct to move, but I wouldn't let myself take movement because, again, there's fear. Somebody's going to judge me. I'm going to get in trouble. Somebody's not going to like that I'm being disruptive. Somebody's not going to like that I'm using my voice. Somebody's not going to like that I'm being loud, right? All of those manifestor wounds. Yeah. And then, your initial instinct is your truth. This is something that Danny taught me in the very beginning of learning human design. Your truth is your true self theme. So when my initial instinct brings me peace, I know that that's coming from my spleen.
It's period. Yeah. When I'm satisfied I can tell I'm satisfied by the passage of time, forgetting about it. When I've not noticed, and you know what? I'm going to make a statement. I imagine this is true for all of humanity, but for generators I can speak for, this has got to be true. As soon as they're busy, they're in a sense, they're transcending time, because we don't know. And then I remember back to all the times I was little, and the day would fly by if we were having fun. It would always end too soon. Yeah. Always.
Wrapped up in satisfaction. If you are a splenic projector, and that splenic awareness in the now makes you feel appreciated. If you decide to accept somebody's invitation and you feel appreciation through that acceptance, that means that invitation was correct for you to. Now, I say acceptance, I say appreciation because I hate the word success. I have worked with so many projectors, and projectors, it doesn't feel like success. It feels like I feel appreciated. I feel wanted. I feel seen. It feels like appreciation, right? And so, again, always honoring. And then you guys are right, because sometimes in the moment, there is a little like back and forth between the mind and the body. And the spleen is always part of the body, right? That's what our inner authority is. That's what our design is. And so sometimes sitting with it, because there's always another now, and there's always another now. Sometimes that now passes and you don't get another shot at it. But more times than not, there is another now. And you can lean in a little bit deeper into that.
Moana, let's go full screen.
Huh? What do you mean?
Is there another slide, or can we go full screen?
There are more slides. Now we're going to get into the conditioning of this authority,
which we've been talking about already. Yeah, right. Can you read them? Just read them down, Moana.
Yeah, sure. So, Tressa mentioned this a little bit. It just comes in flashes, right? So someone might perceive you as unreliable. So then you're like, no, I need to be consistent. I need to be stable. If I rely on my spleen, that isn't, on a timer. It just shows up when it shows up. So that's a big conditioning. And then someone else can do the next bullet.
Yeah. Hesitancy to rely on one's own judgment. I'm going to do a couple. Anxiety about uncertain outcomes or potential failures, self-doubt and feelings of inadequacy and various inadequacies and fears, preferring safety over taking chances. You were speaking to that, Tressa. Experiencing imposter syndrome in leadership or teaching, and sometimes in entrepreneurship in various roles.
Yeah. And what all of these bullet points have in common is the aspect of trust underneath it. I don't trust myself. Yeah. I don't trust myself to make the right decision. I don't trust life that the random decision I'm making is actually going to catch me.
Think about it. Yes, because if the spleen just spoke, and it speaks softly, and it can only speak the once, even if it's going to come back, it's still the once. That means if you missed it, you're left only with the not self mind for the next few seconds, potentially. Right.
Yes.
And so ultimately,
Absolutely.
Yes. Holy cow. That's maniacal.
The concept of faith has a whole new meaning when you have a splenic authority. This is, and it's interesting because me and Danny talk sometimes about how there are quite a bit of similarities between having a sacral authority and a splenic authority.
I was going to say that.
Right. We're both kind of like squirrels, especially manifesting generators, right? Like, over here. But there's not even a guttural response with the spleen.
Right.
It takes an immense amount of faith in yourself in order. I'll give you an example. This is a horrible example, because we're potty training a 5-year-old autistic child. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced that. It's horrific. Don't recommend. And I'm downstairs working on a post. I'm on my computer and I'm mid-sentence and I get this overwhelming, shut it down. Stop typing, shut it down. And my mind goes, I'm in the middle of my sentence. I don't want to do that. Let me just finish typing. And I let my mind win. I did not honor my splenic authority. And 2 minutes later, my child comes down with poop on his hands. And
you missed a shitstorm.
I could have prevented a shitstorm, but because I didn't have faith in that intuition in the now. Do you see? And so it's sometimes, and it happens like that, and then sometimes that still small voice will come out a few times. And give me a little bit of a buffer.
Tell more about the repetition of it coming out. Ra would always say this thing. I know he had a spleen in his body graph. He could speak intelligently to it. However, at the same time, right, he had a defined spleen, right? Yeah.
He was a splenic. Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, obviously.
Okay.
And
I'm like, I can't remember. I thought he was an ego manifester.
Well, they're all ego manifestors.
If you got a defined ego, you're an ego.
Yeah. That's funny.
Okay, so he had a defined spleen and a defined ego.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the inner authority is still the spleen, but that it would come back. And I always envision the spleen, an aware spleen, where it's communion and cooperating with its supposed operator backseat driver, that will come back maybe multiple times because you're in the same situation. It's like, no, dude, it keeps coming back slightly different, but it could be battling at you at times.
Yeah.
Is that
well, sometimes the thing that's going to happen is going to happen now, like the poop thing, right? And then sometimes the thing that's going to happen is going to happen in a week, or it's going to happen in a month, or it's going to happen and it's gearing you up to be ready for the thing that you need to be ready,
that you don't know what it is yet. Right.
You don't know what it is. Yeah. But your spleen is saying you better hop on board and start taking action in order to prepare for the concept. And me and Danny talk about this all the time. The concept of treating your body like a partner, not a slave.
Not a slave.
It's given me the ability to communicate with my spleen directly, because what I will do, knowing I'm a splenic authority, I will stop in the moment because my spleen talks to me. But I've started talking back to my spleen. I will stop sometimes in the moment and I will say, okay, body, what do we need right now? And then I'll just get quiet and my body will tell me, or it will show me, or it will move me in some ways. And so I think that the more you become aware with this living, breathing consciousness that is the vehicle.
Yes.
It is it's vastly different than our personality.
So important.
Consciousness.
Yes.
Right?
It has its own awareness. Fully and it wants to survive. It wants to live. It wants to get this material plane just right. It wants to be fine. It wants to have a party.
Yeah. And now there's Tressa, and then there's Tressa's body.
Right.
What does Tressa think that the right thing is, and what does the body want? And when I start to honor my body in that way, I've learned that not only are my splenic intuitions, my splenic knowings louder, but I can then relinquish mental control and give it up and be like, okay, just tell me what to do. What do you want? And 9 times out of 10, it says, close your damn eyes. You're freaking tired. 9 times out of 10, that's what it says to me.
You actually brought us right to our next slide.
Yeah, of course we did.
That's how
we did, right? Naturally.
Naturally. So Tressa basically, bullet trained us through the tips for how to get better using your spleen. So, Tressa mentioned it over and over again. We go into our not self mind overthinking. So when this happens, one of the tricks you can use, we talked about this before, is visualizing a white light coming down through the top of your head, covering your body, and taking a deep breath and letting your body lead, like Tressa already mentioned, right? And another thing that's really great is coming back to your body is using your 5 senses. What am I smelling right now? Oh, I see, this giant pile of hay. That's a mess. That's actually true. I have 3 rabbits, so I basically live in a barn. Using all your senses to basically get out of your head and get back into your body. This is mentioned over and over again. Act promptly. This was a great example.
I love this one.
You should have closed that laptop. Just do it. And it was just this small split-second voice, super fast. Just do it. Don't question it. Don't think about it. Just go ahead and do the thing. It could be something.
And instead of reframe, I would rephrase this. It says refrain from questioning your certainty, and instead of certainty, it would be just questioning your instincts and your intuitions, really, because you're not certain yet. Certainty has nothing to do with this thing. The only certainty has anything to do with is the certainty that you should be listening. Is what I'm thinking. But
that was the most Danny thing I've ever heard Danny say.
Yeah. That should be a quote somewhere.
I'm so grateful you got it.
Go back and you listen to it, you're like, oh, no. He said it exactly right.
I did. They only ever come out right. They never repeat right. That's, What'd you say? Don't ask.
Yeah,
Don't know.
watch the replay. If you want to get that quote again, watch the replay. But yes,
I love the idea of going back and connecting with all of your different senses, because again, everything about human design is about the physical body, and these senses that we have, the smell, taste, touch, right? Where the spleen is connected to all of those systems, symptoms, because it's connected to the lymphatic system. But the sixth sense of intuition, the energetic connection of a spleen, the psychic intuition that the spleen is connected to, is also one of our senses. And that's one of the senses that the doctors and the, Western medicine doesn't really connect the dots with. Yeah. but when you, but as a splenic being, when you smell something and it doesn't smell right, your immune system, your physical body is saying to you, don't put that thing in my mouth. Right? When you hear something and it sounds off, and then you think about some of the gates in the spleen, the gates connected to the eyes and the nose and the tastes and the smelling, right? Gate 44, I smelled a rat. You know what I mean?
Right.
All of those gates are connected to the actual senses. And so that is such a beautiful exercise for splenic beings to connect to, and making sure that they're tuning into their sixth sense, the psychic sense, gate 57, whether they have it or not, the sense of actual intuition.
Oh my God.
The spleen is the oldest awareness. Sorry, go ahead, Melina.
No, that was chilling. And yeah, this is our last slide. And it's like, these are just
hold
some
on. Let me
habits.
finish. Let me dovetail on what Tressa just said. Yeah, no, that the spleen, it being our oldest awareness. This thing that's in every reptile, it's in anything basically with a heartbeat at this point. And the spleen has been around for so long that it is in tune with forces greater than we can yet measure or write down or whatever. Like you were saying, Western, tend to ignore it. At the same time, since it's been around so long, think about it. I like to describe it as what you just described. I say it has this uncanny capacity to see a half inch beyond the veil, to see a foot beyond the veil, to see a minute into the future, or sometimes just a moment into the future. It is literally past the ring past knot of where we stop. It goes past that. And it's this thing, and the listening to it becomes so pristinely profound. And I imagine when you listen several times, do you find yourself at peace, Tressa? Is there a sense of well-being as you listen? Is it like the world can't hurt me? I imagine a good spleen feels a certain type of invincible.
There is a sense of safety and trust that no matter what I do, no matter where I am, no matter where I go, I am protected, because my spleen will always tell me in the now what I need to do, how I need to move, how I need to act. Think about sports. Think about professional sports. How do those athletes know just the right trajectory to move their body, just to do this, just to do that? I mean, all of that stuff is deeply, whether it's their spleen or they're amplifying it, all of that in the now, knowing it. There is a sense of, like you said, Danny, what's the word that you just used? It can't touch me.
It can't invincible. It's a certain amount of invincibility.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now this is what I think about. This is what I find fascinating about all of the centers that we have defined. Just like you said, Moana, it's a frequency that your physical body is emitting from you, sending it out into the world. So when you have a person with a defined spleen acting out as the not self version of them, they are increasing the fear in the planet. They're adding to the fear on the planet. Now, when you have a splenic being who is actively wrapped up in their true self theme, and they are feeling this immense amount of safety and trust and faith, all of a sudden we are sending that out into a world filled with fear.
Oh, that's
and
beautiful.
That frequency cuts through like a knife, right?
Yeah. We conquer by being correct.
That's a good quote, Danny.
Yep. Wow, that is a good one. We do. And so it needs to get done that way. This experiment, Tressa, we've talked about all these great things, but how would we tell a splenic person how would we pitch, go through the whole experiment that you need to be in? You can't just hear it, you You got to willingly enter into an experiment that says, I have this inner authority called a spleen. Go ahead. Good habits. Can you?
Yeah, it starts with having good habits.
Can I stop in the moment? Because here's a splenic intuition. If I don't say this, I'm going to completely lose it. Right? I'll forget it. Working through hypnotherapy with so many different splenic, and I've at this point worked with hundreds and hundreds of different people through hypnotherapy, so many different splenic beings. And what I know at an unconscious level, the not self version, the dysfunctional patterns, think that fear is safe. And that's why they get wrapped up in fear. They think that fear is safe. And sometimes in a hypnotherapy session, I will have to remind my clients, fear isn't safe. Fear is fear. Peace is safe. Love is safe. Trust is safe, right? Security is safe. These are the frequency. Now there are two types of fear. There are fears that help us and there are fears that hurt us. And when we start to look for the fears that help us and use them as friends, all of a sudden we move through into peace really, really quickly. And peace, satisfaction, appreciation, surprise, those are the safest frequencies. Love, safest frequencies on our planet.
Absolutely. Because at the same time, when you're looking at that, Tressa, you really have an eloquent way of putting things.
I know, right? I'm like,
yeah, it's really dumbfoundingly good.
Greatness.
Yep. In fact, I think I already forgot what I was going to say, but I want to get to the experiment of this thing because we've got all those good tips. They were sitting up on the screen. We actually have been saying them, the tips that are on there.
We did not talk about essential oils, but I guess it's not important.
Well, I remember what I wanted to say. It's just that.
Tell us.
Fear is informative. You were like, fear's not safe, and it's not this. It's like, no, fear's not safe. It's informative, and it's supposed to simply inform our intelligence. Fear makes us, it's a primary root of actual intelligence. Even just like the low part of a wave or melancholy creates our emotional and our greater intelligence in many ways and consciousness. Fear does the same thing. It does the same thing, but it's more guttural. Helpful
fear.
Right.
Yeah.
It informs
until you get to not self-fear, and not self-fear hinders us. Instead of informing us, it holds us back and it stifles us.
Yes. So getting into an experiment, that's got to be hard for a splenic person to explain to them why they need to trust this. Going from 0 to, here you go, kid.
Yeah, you're crazy. Why would I do that?
Here's some chewing gum. Go take a walk it off.
So Tressa, I'm sure you have activities, but like when you start your day, what kind of activities do you do to ground yourself? This was, saying yoga or deep breathing, but I know that you probably have your own way of doing it.
Yeah, that's a really great question. I do everything I can to feel the frequency of peace. It doesn't matter. And again, at being a splenic being, some days I do yoga. Some days I start off with meditation. A lot of days I mantra on my prayer beads. And as a manifester, right, it's really important for us to stay connected with our throats and to be vocal when we want to. So quite often I will mantra out loud. And some of my mantras, I'll take a concept. And in the beginning, I used to mantra a lot around safety. I don't do that anymore because I feel very innately safe. But I will mantra things like ease, like it's easy to get rest, and it's easy to live as a manifester, and it's easy to receive abundance, and it's easy to be surrounded by people that love me, and it's easy, right? And those, just going into those flows of what I am and what I have and what I can, those things make me feel super peaceful. And I know that if I can find peace, I can hear my spleen very clearly. So for me, it's not about connecting with my spleen. It's about connecting with myself.
Yeah.
That so many
comes along with it
today. Yeah. Extract these moments. So good. Do you have a favorite essential oil? That was another thing. It's like it just keeps you connected to your senses. You can like rub a little bit on your collarbone.
Yeah, that is such a good question, and it's so funny. I really like jasmine, and I really like lavender, And I do, smells are really, and I'm a 44, right? I'm a trans center. I have the whole channel twice, and smells are really important to me. And sometimes I use smells to ground me in. I'm also a sixth color determination. So lighting, sunlight, natural lighting is also really important to me.
Do you like to do any particular activities outdoors to like help you feel grounded?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Just a walk. Like, what would you like do?
I go barefoot. So sitting with grounding into the earth with my bare feet. When it's warm outside, you know what I mean? I really like to garden. So touching the earth, being in the earth, stuff like that is all very peaceful. And again, some of this stuff has to do with the aspects, I have a whole channel of initiation. So gate 25 is super, connected with the earth and so on and so forth. But yes to all of those things.
Yay! Amazing. We made it through all of the
into the experiment, Tressa. How do we tell a splenic person to enter their experiment? So they come to us, they want to hear enough in the first place, or even if they don't, they just in tune that there's something going on. I mean, we want to say, hey, you've got this inner authority that works like this. I'm just trying to think that out loud. It's we're explaining to somebody, and I love that he's there, by the way. It's great. And we're getting someone just to say, hey, listen, we're going to plant you in this experiment, and you're a manifestor, and we teach you that this piece is so important. And then we have to teach you, how did we teach you in the beginning, Teresa, that this splenic authority, other than sending you raw uruhu tapes, how did we teach you, that this, to be in the experiment, you have to stay grounded because it's so quick. Your experiment is so fast. Next to a splenic hit, a response is sort of like a response is like a mwah, and a splenic hit's like
right. Well, I think that for me, when I had my first human design chart reading, I started right away. I immediately got off that call. I put the not self questions of my open centers in my pocket, and I immediately started my own experiment. Danny, is it okay if I go get him?
I'll keep talking for a little bit. Yeah.
Sorry. Yes.
No, it's perfect, Tressa. It's called We're Alive. We're being alive. So what Tressa's referring to is she's gonna when you're getting into this experiment, you're choosing to hear what is it we've read for you. There are usually three things getting in the way, main ones. The first one is the open centers have a not self voice. So you have to be willing to, like she said, take them around with you. There's these 4 open centers in my body graph. They have a not self voice. What are they? So you take them around, so you keep seeing it over and over again. And then you have an inner authority. It's the spleen. It comes so fast. We have been going over what it's doing, what its purpose is, what it's for. So now you've got this huge trust. You've got to break through the idea that you don't trust it yet and experiment with watching it so that as you watch it, you learn to trust it. And how profound it is when you do, because truth sits there like this incredible beacon begging for you to now experience your signature and see things with the view and start answering that existential question. What's my impact? Or, who am I? Who are you?
Yep.
Right.
Danny, you are a poet.
Oh, thank you.
Only
when you put me on the spot, man. Only when you put me on
Let's pull it out of you. What I had to do in the beginning is I really had to learn that fear wasn't safe. That was the only way for me to actually really start listening to my spleen, because what the not self mind thinks is that control is safe. Right? If I can control, if I can predict, if I can plan, all of those things we were just talking about. And so I would witness myself grasping and manipulating and making excuses. Why? Oh, I can't do it this way because of X, Y, and Z, where in reality, it was because of fear.
Right.
And so I really had to confront and face some of the reasons why I was doing what I was doing and admit to myself that I wasn't certain, and I didn't know, and what would happen if I tried to do it another way. Ultimately, I think that I'm very much like, am I living the life of my dreams?
Right.
Because if
Right.
I'm not, because life is giving me what I'm putting out. And so if I want to get something different, I have to put something out that's different. And what do I have to lose?
Right.
Right.
It's just an
And
experiment.
so
So
it's
this
just
is
an
how we,
experiment. Yeah.
it's just an experiment. So really the very first thing is, as it relates to getting into experiments, which I find myself talking about more and more because it's the only thing that enters you in. Otherwise, it's a thought experiment. Otherwise, it's just thought. It doesn't reach application and it doesn't reach
Yeah.
experiencing it. So come open, come
Yeah.
receptive, be still enough to hear and be present,
Yeah.
very
Absolutely.
present. Yep.
Absolutely. One of my new favorite things to say is that the mind can't feel. All the mind is capable of doing is conceptualizing. You cannot
Measuring.
measure. You can't
Yep.
conceptualize your experiment and be in your experiment at the same
At the
time
same
because they're
time.
two different things. We're talking about the body,
Oh,
we're talking about the mind. So you got to pick your poison. You got to choose, are you going to conceptualize it? And people who conceptualize it get really culty about human design. Haven't you guys noticed?
right,
They're
right,
really culty. They're
right,
really like, this is the right way. This is the wrong way. Ross
right,
says it
right.
like this. It's very rigid about it because they haven't actually taken it into the body
Ross
and
said, "I
experienced
shall
it
not
for
create a
themselves.
cult in my name, and I diversify my vestings before I pass away. So there's 5 or 6 of you, and no one can take it over." That's what Ross says.
Amen.
Amen. Yeah, what a patriot, man. Yeah, he's like George Washington in that way. Um,
Yeah.
but anyways, yeah, no, I see how this whole thing unfolds. I really can't wait to get more people into their experiment trust. It's such a joy. The last couple of people that I've dealt with recently, you know them, and one of them's learning like a storm. It's so beautiful, and I forget generator. I don't think it's manifesting generator. I think it's just generator,
Mhm.
and the other couple, they saw, and it was just so beautiful. Couples, all of it. So out to the masses we go.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yep. 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 That's
Sure.
the thing. All you can do is put it out there, and
We're
people who are going to
moving.
be ready. Yeah.
We're going to move to the what we were going to do is the spleen and then the ego. And I was like,
Mhm.
well, if you have an ego, it's part of your authority, even though it doesn't actually make the decision, but it's part of you so dramatically that ego
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
just
Well, and the thing about authorities, and this is what I'm really starting to learn in my own experiment, if you have more than one of the centers that are considered to be authority. So let's say you have an emotional authority, Juana,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
But let's say that you do,
Got a
wait, do you have a
spleen.
spleen? You have a
No.
spleen too.
Yeah.
No.
I'm
No.
very open. I have like
Do you
3 centers defined.
do you have an ego?
No.
No.
Okay.
Root.
I
So
have root, emotional solar plexus, and throat. That's it.
throat.
So
Yeah.
synthesis and
So
transitoriness.
got
Synthesis
it.
and transitoriness. Yep.
Got it. Cool. That's cool. Okay, but also, so here's the thing. If you've got a couple of those centers, if you're emotionally defined and you're in an emotional neutral and you also have a spleen, well, when your emotions are neutral, now you can hear your spleen,
Oh,
right? If you're a splenic
interesting.
being and you have an ego, if your spleen isn't talking, sometimes your ego is. Sometimes your
Right.
ego says, but this is what I
That's
want, right? So
so cool.
people, right? And so you can use the order of authority, people who are super open, like self-projected projectors, on the days where they have a defined spleen and emotional system, they're going to act like an emotional being, not a splenic being, because there's an order of authority. But if you know
Right.
the order of authority and you recognize what that is inside of you for you, it's one of the most helpful things that I've learned about authorities. So I don't know how you feel about that, Danny,
No, it's
but
you're saying it all exactly right because I've stopped giving it all only to one thing, and because the ego helped me do that.
We used this last week.
Yes, right,
We
and
went
this is a
over the
decent enough
number.
pecking order. Spleen and self-projected identity are probably just neck. I mean, ego and identity are neck and neck, but as it relates to just an ego, if it's just an ego authority, that's the channel of material. That's the voice of the tribe. It's the controller. It's the channel of money. 2145. So when that's the channel that you have and nothing else is defined, you could actually no, you could have a defined head center, but you couldn't have a defined root, or there would be another definite, or there would be another thing. So and you couldn't. And then the jury's out. We've been talking about this, where the ego and the identity really are neck and neck as it relates to an authority. However, if you have a identity projected authority from your love of yourself moving in a direction from this locator inside of you, at that moment in time, I would say that would take precedence over the ego. The ego would have to yield to what's true, because sometimes the ego ain't always true, but it is good.
Query.
What do you think of that?
Okay, so for this particular episode, I was looking at ego manifestors specifically, not projectors. Right. So would that still apply, where if you have the G center defined and you have your ego defined?
Well, yeah, if you have a defined throat, you're automatically if you have a defined throat connected to the ego, you're automatically a manifester. Right. So if you just have an ego connected to the G center, then now you're
you can be a projector. I knew a gal who was a 5125. I think you've seen one by now, Tressa.
Oh yeah.
A 5125.
Yes, I've come across a couple of those. Yes.
Who is the authority in that moment?
Well, Danny, that's a really good question, because the ego is a motor.
It seems to overpower.
Motors have power.
Is it speaking the truth for the identity, or does the identity stand alone and say, as I know in the now, because it's individual, so it's in a pulse?
Who are not super familiar with what you're talking about, so people can reference it. So what exactly are you referring to? This is the 51 and then a 25, or where were you pointing? Because I'm just giving people a visual reference.
Yes, that's exactly right. From the yellow box to the red triangle. That's exactly right. So let's pretend like I didn't have a spleen or a throat, and all you have is just the yellow and the red, and everything else was white. Right.
Yep.
Now, this isn't the same subject we're talking about. This is not an ego.
We're going on a tangent.
We're going on a tangent. But Danny, I'm going to play devil's advocate, and I'm going to argue that you cannot separate one from the other, because that channel, that life force channel, blends the two centers together. So what you want is the correct thing for your identity.
They must align.
There's no other way, right?
Well, in the not self broken up sort of whatever world, there's got to be where it's not in alignment. Well, of course, there's a way for it to you just be outside of your own motivation, and these things will disalign. So in the disaligned world, then you're right. They could, but in an aligned world, they will speak at the same time, won't they?
And from my understanding of what the channels do is that they bleed the energy one into another. They bleed the life force through. And so what you want is what you love.
It's a full on, yes, it's a full on.
And the direction that you're going in is what you want, and
is what you
want is the direction that you're going in. And so
dude, so we just described that it's a twin, dude. In that case, it would be like a twin. It would be very much a twin. A twin little process in the witnessing of the experiment. And you notice it's always the projectors that get the most interest, not the most, but get the biggest variety of possible experiments.
Of authorities,
yes, absolutely. As it relates to this, because that, what you just said, could also have a head, a throat, and an ajna, and it would still be the authority down here.
Yes. Wild, right? Yeah.
Yep. Wow, that's a lot. So but if it were just an ego manifester, just that 21, and again, that 2145 could technically have any of the ajna gates. Let's just say all the ajna gates up to the throat are available, and let's say all the head center and throat up to the head center are available. But you've got this ego manifester where that authority is that 2145. What do you make of that?
Ego authority manifestors are some of the most broken and wounded people I've ever come across in my life. And I'll tell you why. This is exactly, is it okay if I tell you why?
Yeah.
Because the defined ego at a very young age is seething confidence.
Yeah.
You come out, only about 30% of the population have a defined ego, and the ego manifestor is constantly doing what they want when they want it because they want to.
And
And
they
they are
can.
looked and they can, and they are
Yeah.
looked at like they are selfish. And other people, right? 70% of the population with open egos are amplifying this egoic energy. It triggers the not self theme of I'm not good enough. And people, from a very young age, are smacking down, hi
Right.
Kiki, smacking down the ego manifestor, saying, how dare you be so full of yourself? How dare you be so selfish? How dare you do the things that you want to do? Now, the wounding around a defined ego can be very similar, except more consistent than an undefined ego. So the self-hatred, the self-loathing, the unable to take a compliment, unable to see anything good in themselves for fear that they will get in trouble, for fear that if they do what they want or think good about themselves in any way, they will get punished, because that is what has been happening to them their entire lives. And so a lot of analysts will look at an ego manifestor and be like, wow, you're so bold and you're so confident. And the ego manifestor is like, what are you talking about? I literally hate myself, right?
They would have
There's
to
a
have
lot of wounding around that.
They would have to have sort of lucked into the right thing early on for that to not really be the case.
Yeah, been around people who empowered them, who made them feel like, for an ego manifestor, they are designed to be so selfish. And when I use that word, I tell my ego manifestors, look at your body graph, look at your incarnation cross, right? Like, you are selfishly designed to uplift and support your tribe.
It's selflessly,
right?
yes, selflessly, and to
Right?
love it, and for that to be the one thing that they keep loving, the fact that they say, I did that, I did it,
Oh, and
I
no,
did it, my reward is here.
Right, but it isn't selfless. It is selfish. I will selfishly support, uplift,
do this thing. Yes.
I call it the hype man thing, because when you have a defined ego, you are designed to know your worth and value. And when you know your worth and value, you see the worth and the value of everyone around you. So a really true self ego manifestor is going to stand in their center of confidence and selfishly bring everybody up to their level. You can do it. Let's try again. Let's hype you up. Let's see your worth and your value. Let's be
Through that
abundant,
amazing voice,
right?
through that amazing voice, that voice
Yeah.
that just doesn't say I have resources. I have the right words. I have the right tone for you right now.
Yes.
I have the right rhythm. I'm saying the right stuff. I
Yeah.
got the right idea. We got the right motion, and the tribe is correctly safe or not, basically.
Yeah. So how can we encourage them to be helping them understand that selfish is their superpower, right?
So if as a manifestor, they're still going to inform as a strategy. They're still going to recognize the power of their impact. They're still going to see how much they love their own peace and how quickly they get angry. And the thing for them would be to see how quickly their anger takes on a very powerful voice. And that would be their experiment. The powerful voice of their anger. They should tape record themselves so they can hear it.
You just went over our bullet point.
Of course we did.
Unwavering energy of their heart, right?
Yeah,
and
well, that just occurred to me, the power
Mm-hmm.
of that voice when it is angry. Just like, I mean, it's powerful in all the cases, but that one is very specifically so. And so think about
the only thing that wasn't gone over, right, is so when you have this particular authority being part of the material plane and focusing on material things is completely correct for you. But again, the world's like, oh my God, like, you don't need more stuff. You're being so materialistic. And that would apply to maybe everyone else, but not the ego authority. And
time to go, Willie.
That can start feeling like, for example, I have an ego manifestor friend, and she loves shopping. And she is like, she feels a type of way about it. She's like, oh, I don't think I need this many clothes, but it just like feels good to shop. And like now looking at her design, I'm like, homegirl, that's right for you. You keep buying whatever you want. There's nothing wrong with that.
I like these bullet points.
Mm-hmm.
This energy fosters consistent motivation and drive. You spoke to that, Tressa. It correlates with the openness to the material plane in its own design and in its decision making. When faced with significant decisions, trust your immediate verbal responses. There's part of that strategy. There's part of how that authority gets heard.
Yeah.
The power of the ego reward that it feels when it's good. It feels heart good when it is feeling and speaking its strength. That's how it knows, because when it doesn't feel good, it's back to feels good, doesn't feel good. It seems like every single one of our authorities has this element of it. Does that feel good?
And they're so different.
No,
and
they're so different.
And they're so different, because the way that the spleen feels good is completely different than how the ego,
in the ego,
right?
Yeah,
the ego, right? This whole concept of patting the ego on the back.
Yeah.
This is such a foreign concept to people like you too, because it's not something that you, and when you come across ego people like me, you can't understand why I'm always talking about how good I am, or how good I did, or how good the not self, like the undefined ego people will look at ego beings and be like, wow, you're really full of yourself. Like, ew, you're super conceited. And they will take, but for a true healthy ego, there has to be confident. And there's a big difference between confidence and conceit. Confidence says I am as good as I know that I can be, and conceit says I am better than you. Right. I heard this example a while ago about a heart surgeon. You better believe that heart surgeon is confident. You better believe that man who is operating on you knows that he knows what he's doing, and he knows that he is good at what he is doing. That is the definition of a really good defined ego. But if they're with an open ego being who cannot tell them they're good, you're going to have a big problem in your relationship.
Right.
Because defined ego beings need to hear it. Hey, you did so good. You look really good. I'm so proud of you.
Think of what the ego is really the heartbeat of. It is the heartbeat of all of our tribal instincts, all of our tribal ways. It is the heartbeat of the tribe, because all the roads of the tribal circuitry go to the ego first, before giving its one outlet for expression or individual uniqueness, one of the two. And so with all that tribal supportiveness, it's always going to be that. Support me, make me feel good. And in that moment, they get this reward that actually lasts for a while. And open ego people, their reward doesn't last very long. My reward is only ever a minute or two.
Yeah. I'll go back to compliments. I'll read comments. I'll read messages, and I'll be like, I did a really good job.
I killed it.
I'll go back to it like days later. Sometimes I'll just like look at my achievements, accomplishments, and what I teach all of my ego beings is that you have to start telling yourself you're good. I'm good at this, and I'm good at that, and I love myself for this.
I'm not just blustering, I'm speaking. And if you love me, you're going to say, that's great, I hear it. And if you think I'm not that, then I know that I need to move from your direction. I need to move away from you a little bit. And
so I have a query. So this is the last bullet that I'm like, okay, so I have a friend of mine that has always kind of taken jobs that she knows she's too good for. But she takes them anyway.
Yep.
Because she's like, this is what my resume has. This is what I know. And she puts up with things that doesn't feel good. And it's very interesting. Again, like now, like diving into like her ego thing. It's like, no, like what's correct for her is going after the jobs that does make her feel good about her worth instead of just settling.
Right. But the wounded ego is too hurt to tell themselves that they deserve more. They're too afraid. What if I get smacked down again? What if I get in trouble? What if I start to feel big and it feels so good and then it gets taken away from me?
Again. Yes.
Right. And it is all deeply connected to money, because money is support. What do you need to support the tribe? You need money to feed the tribe, to house the tribe, to clothe the tribe. And so a lot of ego beings have money wounds. They say, I can't do something. I'm too afraid to be bigger. So I'm going to settle for something that I know makes money, because what if I can't make any more? And little do they know that they're here to make money.
Right.
You
Literally.
know? Literally. They can't
and gather
not.
resources and fill up that hole that says I have, which they do have. And then
and
the
as a
flip
matter
side
of sorry, Danny, I cut you off.
Well, the flip side of that was not the flip side, but another side is just that sometimes there's that ego that does make money and does so maniacally and without pause or consciousness of what, and sometimes even ruthlessly. That's the thing. The ego can be ruthless. The ego helps, do all the things that tribes have to do. Well,
and the not self-aversion. I think that
the
most
not self-version is what I'm referring to, because we have to look out for that a lot. People have to see to look out for all these things. Right.
Well, talking about pure ego manifestors, this is the whole channel of money. Gate 21 into gate 45. Gate 20. It's funny because the gate of I have isn't in the ego. The gate of I have is in the throat. That's right. That gate 45 right there.
Yep.
Right. Gate 21 is the warrior. Gate 21 goes out and says, I can go get that. I can go slaughter that animal and bring the meat back to my king. And gate 45 is the king. And gate 45 says, I have the provisions, and I will then dole the provisions out to the tribe.
Along with the education of the tribe. I will inform the tribe. It's right in the whole thing about the archetype. Whenever they show an archetype of the manifestor, when Ra would do all the body graphs, he would always have a 214 for the generator. And he would always have one of the splenic channels, usually for the projector. Yep, or sometimes identity. And he would always have the 2145 for the manifestor. That would always, at least it would always be one of his go-to slides. And that's for a reason, because that is the voice of the tribe. That's what this ego and this channel and this whole being wants to do in reality. I want to show you how it works. If they're a proper nine-centered aligned being, they're interested in the spirit being lifted through the communion of a good direction for its people. It's good. It's filled with all the right stuff. And they need to educate people on how to stay a part of that.
Yeah. And what is the right stuff to an ego being? Support, money, resources, abundance. That's the right stuff. And so going back to the example of your friend, Moana, who really loves travel, of course she does. Because there's resources within that. There's stability within that, and there could be some other things in her chart that say other, gate 19s are very much like fill my refrigerator full of food, have the things, like there's different things around that. But on to the next slide.
Yeah. All right. Yep. They only have 6 steps.
In decision making. You read them off, Moana. Just read them down. Yep.
So when they are faced with a decision, so again, we're talking about manifestors, they need to speak out loud what they're feeling. Don't think.
Without overthinking. Don't think.
Just blurt it out. Literally just blurt out from your mouth what the thing is. And then assess that decision and see if it aligns with your goals and your values, and see if you get financial gain from it or personal fulfillment. And then trust that verbal response that just blurted out. And it will be very spontaneous if it's correct.
Clarity will emerge spontaneously if this is your channel, funding yourself and giving you, this is your life force. You're that ego manifestor. That will absolutely bring all kinds of that spontaneity. I mean, the throat, all the roads lead to Rome in that throat center. And the throat would love to be spontaneous with everything. Every one of its voices would love to, except maybe 12 is cautious, but spontaneous me. And 35 might say, well, I'm full for the moment. But other than that,
if you go back here, right, the decision time, right, it can be immediate. However, it can sometimes take a little longer depending on what the thing is. Right. So, sorry, Tressa, go ahead.
I just want to point out the cruel cosmic joke of all ego manifestors, because Liz, like think about what we're saying. We're saying, speak your response immediately. Say it out loud. What do you want? What do you want? What does your heart want? What are your dreams? And you're saying this about a manifester with no emotional system, who struggles more than anything to speak their truth. A manifester who's learned to sugarcoat what they want in order to avoid the emotional wave of another, so that they don't get in trouble, so that they don't get the energetic backlash of pissing somebody else off. I mean, this is a really hard thing that ego manifestors struggle with when they're informing about what they, and not to mention the shame. They are so shameful around talking out loud about what they actually really want, right? It's not easy for them. Yeah, it's not easy for them. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And again, like when you're not in practice with this kind of thing, something that you can try is just keep talking out loud. Just keep talking out loud. And then hopefully as they're talking out loud, it'll get blurted out again at some point. But if it doesn't come out when you're just like saying, okay, what do I want? And then your mind takes over, just talk it out loud with friends or with loved ones. And then in the conversation, it might just spill out. And of course, fears and doubts are going to come up, even more so for you, like Tressa said, because you've learned to shut that part of yourself down. Oh, I don't want to be perceived a certain way. I don't want people to say this or think this about me. So it is going to take a lot of practice.
Yeah. The best thing you could ever do, if this is you, if you're an ego manifester, find a friend who has a defined ego, because they get it.
Yeah.
Find a friend who, is not going to judge you, who's not going to think that you sound conceited, who's not going to get you in trouble, who's not going to criticize you, who's not going to tell you what to do. Just find a friend that you can actually, but one of the most important things they could do is find a friend who has a big fat ego.
Yeah. Big fat ego. We love those big fat ego. By the way, there is no one channel that makes it called the big fat ego. It's being defined.
It's just being defined.
That center being defined. And then again, I'm just going to circle back to all the news. You don't know what I'm talking about. This lovely, tiny, little
this is Tressa's chart, everyone, just in case you didn't know. This is Tressa's chart.
So she has it defined because it's colored in. So that's what you're looking for. Find a friend who has this colored in. They could be whatever type. If that's like my son, he's a generator, but he hasn't defined ego. So he could.
Awesome. Full screen.
No, we're not done. Sorry, we're not done.
Go.
So to round this slide out, right? Other than saying, does this serve me? It's just like, do I want this? And if the answer is yes.
I know the first step in decision making. The first step in decision making, if you are this ego manifester, is to not only think yourself back to, does it feel good, but do you feel at peace? And was this the impact you wanted to make?
Mic drop.
Yes. That's their inner authority decision making. Because Moana, what we're talking about is how do I, the being that who I think I am, integrate and speak to the body that Tressa so clearly teased apart earlier. How do I speak to that thing? How do I speak generally so I can interface with my genome that is navigating my truth? And am I at peace with this? Am I noticing I'm getting agitated? Am I unable to relax? Or am I at peace with this? Is it good? Do I feel good? Does it feel good? It still feels good. I don't care if it's what the center is, because it can feel bad. So it knows when it feels good is the point. Boom.
Yeah. Good. Let's clarify the word good, because good is good, but confident, knowing, right? Supported, you know what I mean? Just powerful. Ooh.
Powerful. Do I feel powerful? Yes. I
can do this. I am, right? Those are
you
all
feel
very
full.
Like,
I have.
Good.
I have. You feel full. Yes.
Yeah.
Full of all
those
the
are
good
all very
stuff.
like ego good ego things.
Yes. And so you notice those and you move and that's what lets you know you're interfacing with actually this authority inside of you, because we're always trying to get people to enter the experiment where they interface and see it. Go ahead, Moana.
I was going to say, Tressa pretty much railroaded through all this without the slide. She didn't even need it. But just to quickly run over it, there's some serious people-pleasing tendencies that can happen for this authority. Like my friend, I was telling you, like she will put everyone else before herself.
That belief of self-sacrifice. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Right. And just know that that's conditioning of your authority type. And it's okay to feel selfish. It's okay to want material things and prioritizing yourself over other people's opinions and their decisions. Anything to add before I go to the next slide?
Do prioritize yourself, and the thing is, you're already supportive. It's built in. Don't worry. Yeah. If you're with the right people, you will prioritize them and support, and that's you prioritizing yourself.
Yeah, you have to support yourself before you can support anyone else.
Yeah.
If you're, what are we gonna build a house in a rotting foundation?
Right.
How well is that house supported with a rotting foundation? And so the best thing you can do if you want to support another person, you start supporting yourself. And then you can build a solid house on a solid foundation, right? That's what they have to understand.
Nope, it just comes through in the now. That ego speaks very much in the current. If we don't put it in the now, it's in the current.
So these are some little tips for the very challenging authority. So gathering information is one good way to go about it, right? Just like talk about it to as many people as you can. Don't think about the details of the thing you want. Just talk. And again, it'll eventually just spill out. When you are stuck in analysis paralysis mode, which is probably going to happen. Same thing, white light coming down, and picture going into your heart, and then, have a hand over your heart and say things out loud while you have your hand over your chest. And when you have your chest feeling expanded, that could also be a sign that, whatever this thing you want is for you. And if you're kind of caving in, that could be hesitation, or maybe that's not the right timing, right? So it doesn't, your body speaks to you even if your throat maybe is not saying it. So this is another way to look at it. And don't be afraid to ask yourself really difficult questions to get that information and to figure out your truth.
And if you really want to experiment with who's right for you, don't forget to ask challenging questions of the other.
Yeah. Can I add something about inner authority? Again, they all go to different parts inside our physical body. And there are physical actions. As a manifestor, I've learned there are actions we can take to support the physical body. So, for example, the spleen is deeply connected to the immune system, the lymphatic system. We can work with the lymphatic system. We can do things like dry brushing, lymphatic drainage, lymphatic padding. We can work with our actual immune system to support our inner authority. Well, when you have a ego authority, you can work with your actual heart, working with your cardiovascular system, using things like cacao that are actually heart opening tools, things like meditation, which are actually scientifically proven to increase coherence between the brain and the heart, which then opens up the heart. And so thinking about inner authority in context of the physical body is actually super supportive, just giving it, and which is, again, such an ego thing. Let's support the heart. Let's make the heart strong,
Think of these keynotes of support and sensitivity, the sensitivity to that support, just the sensitivity generally. Think of how that manifests itself coming out of just this channel. I can imagine this as a profound process because they don't always want to be sensitive to something. It might slow down the ego movement, which does charge along. While at the same time, they can never leave it behind, ever. And so there's this giant balancing act that they understand it's the right support they're giving or the right support they're getting. And they certainly will know quickly that other people are not sensitive towards them. So go figure. The big strong man with the big fat ego is very concerned with the sensitivity of certain aspects of how the support is laid out. Yes,
Yeah.
it's true. And they're still a great, big, strong lumberjack man. You can have it all. And
Yeah.
it all goes around. Plenty for everyone. This
Yeah.
is amazing, Tressa.
If you have a friend, if you have a manifestor friend with a defined ego or an ego manifestor friend, the best thing you could do for your friend is support them. Be sensitive to what they want, just like you said, Danny. Like they are. And the thing about a manifestor is that we have closed and repelling auras, so we
Right.
come off as
Difficult.
dense and unknown and difficult in the struggle. But the truth of all of that is inside of this hard shell are very fragile little 5-year-olds
It's
who
a
have been told
beautiful
their whole lives what they can't do.
flower that wants to grow big.
Yeah, it really, really, really is. It really, really, really is.
Wants to
So,
grow big. Moana, that's our segue on out of this thing.
hey, Danny, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you mind if I put you on the spot?
Would you please? Can I sit here and respond? Moana, you don't have to go away, silly, unless you
Yeah,
want
Moana, where are you going? We're like,
Yeah, what the
we're
hell?
like talking.
I'm getting into these coughing fits, and it's not exactly pretty. But yes, no, we're not done, Danny. There's one more slide. But anyways, we'll go over that out once.
My question is, do slides make you feel trapped?
Yeah, a little bit.
Danny, a little bit. Yeah, that's why.
Are you having a hard time with the slides?
How about you? How about you? Why could you notice that? Right. How about you, Tressa?
I mean, I will just kind of ignore the slide and go talk. But again, I'm a splenic so my intuition guides me. And so it's so funny to hear Danny say, the spleen is always looking 2 steps ahead. It's always thinking about what's coming next. And then how many times on this phone call have you been like, well, you just said the whole slide right before the slide happened.
Right.
And so it's just a real time, we are experimenting with the energy.
We went through everything in record time. We usually don't finish this fast.
Yeah. So go hit the last slide, Moana. For me, by the way, Tressa, slides are I can't always see the writing quickly, and I'm not the greatest out loud reader. So
Moana is. So it's okay.
Moana is. Moana, you're the reader. Read.
She has the manifestor voice.
Hold on, let me get this cough out.
Impact us with your
impact us, baby. Externalize an impact. Oh,
so, look at this. Tressa's magical superpowers of knowing what the bullets are before they were even on here. Meditate. Meditate. But here's a little tidbit to add to the meditating: is picture your life without things in your way, because that's one of the things that manifestors are always facing: blockers. Yeah. Picture this wonderful life without all those things getting in your way.
What a great idea.
Feel it in your body. Like, what does that feel like in your chest? How does that make you feel once you come out of that? Oh, that actually feels even good for me.
It's easy. It's easy to take action, and it's easy to do this, and it's easy. What you just said.
To speak up.
Samesies. Yes, girl. I love that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, if not everyone is into meditating, journal freely about the things you want and how you want to see them happen without, fear that someone's going to read these and think you're a type of way. Just give yourself permission to write whatever you want in there. And then affirm your self-worth. Like, you are worth more than you'll ever give yourself credit for. Like Tressa and, Danny have been like banging home over and over again. There's a lot of wounding there that needs to be gently massaged out of you over your lifetime. So look at yourself in the mirror and say, I am more than enough. I am so much more than enough. And do a workout routine that supports your heart, like Tressa already said. She's gone over these without even looking. It's like
Tressa takes me on a walk. That's where I talk to her half the time, is when you're on a walk somewhere doing a thing. Absolutely.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm
on the treadmill, Danny. What are we up to?
Right.
20 minutes later.
That's too funny. And mantras, because again, you have your throat as a very important center as a manifestor. So saying affirmations and mantras out loud that make you feel good about yourself and the things you want. And then study people that achieve the success and the wealth that you look up to. Like, get inspired, read their stories, and be like, you know what? If they could do it, there's room for me.
Remember to measure your wealth not against money, although money is important. Your wealth is measured against your peace.
Yeah.
Get those two freaking straight, Measure it against your peace of how it feels with it all and the actual resources that are available for the things you love and care about and support and are sensitive to in the first place.
But yeah, that's it. That's all the slides. We did it.
Good.
Record
We did
time.
it.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
Time. I'm like, we've never.
Well, no, it's still an hour.
Yeah.
Dude, it's an hour and a half. Tressa, we kept you too long already. Are you okay?
Oh, I'm getting the evil eye from Ruben over here. Watching.
No.
Bring Ruben on. We need a smooch. We got to get a Tressa Ruben face. No good. Oh, Ruben, I tried, buddy. I tried.
You want none of a bitter projector right now. He's not. He's not happy with me.
What I was going to say, friends, please follow the channel. We're trying to get to 50 followers. So if you enjoy what you're seeing, if you're learning stuff, just like give us a follow. It just literally a hit of a button. Tressa, you can you don't have your thing. No. I was going to put her link in here so you can check out her stuff. She is, like I said, absolutely incredible.
Yes.
You want to follow her. I'm going to throw the link in the chat. So please go check her out. Show her some love. She has done nothing but share truth bomb after truth bomb. And it's been an absolute honor to have us, host you on this humble show.
Yeah. And once this is all done, if you want to chop up a little clip or whatever, and I can post it onto my story and then put a link to this. I have so many people who follow me who could greatly benefit from what you guys are doing and what you guys are teaching.
Keep it all HD, baby.
Thank you. So I'm gonna, bid everyone a farewell and good night. Next week we're going to do ego projected and self projected. So have all your projector friends come hang out with us in the chat, ask us questions. That's what we're here for. Take care, everyone. Good night. Cheers.
Good night, all.
Bye.
Bye.